Howdy folks, hope it's all going well out there. So today's lesson we're looking at all the pentatonic positions, moving between them and targeting chord tones or specifically root notes as we go through them. So this was a backing track in the key of A major, but we're just going to be playing a minor pentatonic across it. Because remember, across a major backing track in blues, you can play minor pentatonic across the whole of it. That's one of the cool things about the blues. Lots of my videos I've talked about getting away from that, about playing major pentatonics and major ideas over major chords and mixing the major and minor together. But today we're just going to play minor straight over the top of it, okay? So it's kind of quite straightforward in some respects. So we're in the key of A, so the 1 chord's A7, 4 chords D7, 5 chords E7. And what we're going to do is we're going to start on the lowest minor pentatonic position we can, but avoiding the open strings. And that would be position 5, which is this. Right? Then what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we target the root note within that position. So the little line I did at the start, I came in on the and of 3. 1, 2, 3, da 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 da, and that note I'm hitting the root note, right, which was, we've got a root note there, an A there, and a root note there. So I could target either of those notes. So I could do something like this: 1, 2, 3, right, and 4 and 1. So what I'm doing there is I'm just going from the 5th fret of the D to the root note, to the minor 3rd, which is the 5th fret of G, giving it a quarter tone bend, then I'm finishing on this A on beat 1. All right, so I've targeted that chord tone, which is a root note. I've created a little path into it, which is why it sounds good. So after that, I did this, and I'm doing a double stop and targeting the root note here. And then after that, I just repeated that phrase, but just did that twice to give it a little bit more of flurry on the end, if you like. Then I did something like, I ran down the scale, ending on a root note again, and then I'm just kind of noodling around in that position, and I'm waiting for the next chord to come. Because what the rule is in this, and this is what we call a limitation exercise, you've got to follow these rules. And by having limitation exercises, it forces you to do things you don't normally do. So the rule is this: every time the chord changes, you move up a position and you have to target that root note, all right? So what I'm thinking is the D chord's coming up. I'm staying down here for all of the A chord. So when the 4 chord, the D chord comes up, I'm moving up to position 1. But I've got to target a D note. So I have to know where the notes are on the fretboard. That is so important. If you don't know where the notes are on the fretboard, I'll put a link to my video there on learning notes on the fretboard. You really need to get a handle on that. It's super important. So I can see a D note there, for example. There's one there. But in this position, there's 2. There and there. So I'm going to target that note. So I might do something like, yeah, then I'm noodling around, but I'm all the time, that's kind of my central position that I keep coming back to. I did that, which is rather tasty, isn't it? That's something I do a lot. And then it goes back to the A again, doesn't it? So now we're on bar 7 of the blues and we're going back to the 1 chord. So the rule is the chord's changed, so I have to change positions. So now I'm going to shift up to position 2. But I've got to target an A note because I know the fretboard, I know there's an A note there, and I can target that. I could target that one as well. Now, you'll know all the time I'm doing very similar things. Every time I come to that minor 3rd, I'm bending it a quarter tone. Yeah, which is just such a bluesy thing to do, and it's kind of hard not to do it. So that's the A chord. Then it's going to the E chord, the 5 chord. So my rule is the chord's changing. I've got to change positions. So I'm now going up to position 3, right? And I'm seeing this E note here. And I think I did a little chromatic walk into it like that. Now this note is not in the pentatonic scale, but I can get away with using it because I'm using it as a chromatic passing note. There's an E note there, I might target that. Then it's D coming. So we're now on bar 10 of the blues, right? And I'm going up to position 4 here. And I'm seeing this D note here. And I'm going to do another little chromatic walk in into it. So from the E I went. And from the D I can go. Yeah. Then it goes back to the A. And then I'm seeing this A note here because I'm now back in position 5, but an octave higher. And I could do another chromatic walk in. Yeah. And it will land on the E right at the end of the progression, right on bar 12. So I've got to move up another position. There's an E note there. Then it starts again. I think I just stayed in position, did something like... Right? So these rules that we've got work really well because they're forcing you to move every chord change when perhaps you wouldn't do that normally. Now, obviously, you don't have to do that. We're doing this as an exercise to get you to play things that perhaps you wouldn't play normally. Now, if you want to expand this exercise, what you can then do is instead of starting off in position 5 down here, you could start in position 1. Then when you go to the D, yeah, and then back to the A. Then we go up to the E, to the D, and back to the A. So you could start from different pentatonic positions. You could then start the whole thing from position 2. This will get you understanding the fretboard and visualizing the fretboard much faster. All right, you've got to put yourself in unfamiliar situations when you're visualizing the fretboard. Otherwise, you know what happens? You just go to position 1 every time. Now you could play this whole solo out of position 1. You could target chord tones and root notes within position 1. There's nothing wrong with that. But you know, there's all the rest of the fretboard, isn't there? You know, and the other advantage about doing it like this is it builds the solo. The solo is building in pitch up the neck. So it's actually a really good way of putting a solo together from a couple of points of view. One, you're changing position with the chord, and that gives the feel of the song building. Also, when you're changing positions every time the chord changes, it kind of just on its own sounds like you're following the chord because you've moved, you've changed something. So you're kind of maybe fooling the listener a little bit, but you target the chord tones as well, and it becomes even stronger. So overall, it's a really good system for playing a solo. So please leave some comments down below. Always good to get questions and points of view on this sort of thing. Don't forget to like and subscribe, super duper important. Make sure you check me out on the Patreon channel. That's going really well at the moment. There's a course on there on chord tone soloing that comes free with a Patreon subscription using my unique cross system, which is getting rave reviews at the moment. It's really cheap, great value for money. Everyone's saying they don't know it's so cheap. Catch you next time.